It was a normal morning in the town of Rayla. The sun was just rising and people were getting ready for their day. Some were going to work. Some were opening their shops. And some kids were playing in the street. Birds were flying in the sky and the air felt fresh. Everything was peaceful. Ravi was walking with his friend Mina. They both worked at the local water plant. Their job was simple but important. They checked the machines and made sure clean water was sent to the homes. Ravi was quiet and calm. Mina liked to talk and laugh. They had been friends since they were children. As they walked to work, Ravi looked up at the sky. He stopped walking. Mina noticed and asked what happened. Ravi pointed at the sky. There was a strange red glow coming from the clouds. It was not like a sunrise. It looked strange and heavy, like something big was about to happen within minutes. The red glow became brighter. People started looking up. The birds flew away in fear. A loud humming sound came from above. It was deep and strong, and it made the ground shake. Everyone stood still and watched as from the sky huge ships came down slowly. They were not like airplanes. They were round and silver with lights on all sides. There were 5 ships, and each one was bigger than a stadium. The ships did not crash. They floated down and stopped just above the ground. A voice came from the sky. It was cold and clear. The voice said that a new power had arrived on Earth. The voice said the name of that power was Zarkin. The Zarkin had come to take control. They said Earth was now under their rule. People were confused. Some tried to run, but the ships moved quickly and blocked the roads. The voice said there was no need to fight. The Zarkin had already shut down all defense systems. Planes could not fly. Communication lines were blocked. Power plants stopped working. From the ships came tall creatures with silver skin. Their eyes were bright blue, and their arms were long and thin. They did not look angry, but they looked cold and serious. They walked in lines and stood in every city. The Zarkin began to take control. They entered government buildings and replaced the leaders. They used strange tools that could control machines with light. Any human who resisted was not hurt but was taken away. No one knew where they went. In the next few days, the world changed completely. The Zarkin gave orders in every town. People were told to report to check centers. Each person was checked and given a work zone. Families were separated. Children were taken to different places. Adults were sent to work in fields, factories, and mining camps. Ravi and Mina were sent to a mining camp on a dry planet called Arcanus. They were taken inside a big ship along with many others. The ship was silent inside. The windows were dark. No one spoke. People sat quietly holding small bags with their things. Some looked out with empty eyes. Some closed their eyes and prayed. The journey to Arcanus took many days. No one knew how long. There was no sun or moon in the ship, only artificial light. Food was given twice a day. Water came from the walls. The Zarkin guards walked quietly and watched everything. When they reached Arcanus, the doors opened, and a dry wind blew inside. The sky was dark orange, and the ground was full of dust and rocks. There were long buildings made of metal. Big machines moved around carrying boxes and tools. Ravi and Mina were taken to different areas. Ravi was sent to the mines. His job was to carry heavy rocks and load them into the machines. The air was dry and hot. There was no night or day. Only the lights on the walls changed color. Mina was sent to the food section. Her job was to clean and prepare basic food for the workers. She worked in silence and followed the rules. There were cameras everywhere. Any mistake was noted. The Zarkin did not beat or shout. They gave orders through small devices. Their voices were always calm. That made them even more strange and cold. They treated humans like machines. Work, sleep, eat, repeat. Ravi felt tired every day. His back hurt. His hands were full of cuts. But the worst part was not the pain. It was the silence. No one laughed. No one told stories. People had forgotten how to speak with feeling. On evening after work, Ravi sat near the wall of the mine. He looked at the ground. He picked up a small stone and started drawing lines in the dust. A worker next to him saw it and asked what he was doing. Ravi smiled a little and said it was a game he played as a child. The worker smiled too. That small smile gave Ravi a strange feeling. It was small, but it felt real. It felt like something was still alive, and later that night Mina found a broken spoon in the food area. She used it to tap a small rhythm on the table. Another worker heard it and started tapping back. It became a little beat. For a moment they felt like humans again. Something had changed. It was not big, but it was the beginning. Zarkin had taken Earth. They had taken power, water, freedom, and family. But there was one thing they did not understand yet. They did not understand the human heart. That was where the story truly began. Ravi had now spent many weeks on Arcanus. Each day began with the same loud tone from the walls. The workers woke up from their metal bunks and walked in lines to their work zones. No one spoke unless they had to. Eyes stayed low. Heads stayed still. The Zarkin guards moved silently between them. The mine was wide and deep. Long tunnels stretched through the red rocks of the planet. Big machines dug through the ground, while humans loaded heavy stones onto transport belts. The air smelled like dust and metal. Sweat dried fast under the strong lights. Water was limited. Breaks were short. Ravi moved slowly now. His hands were rough. His legs felt heavy every step. He had stopped counting days. Time meant nothing here. His world was work, eat, sleep, repeat, but deep inside him something still breathed. A small part of him stayed awake. That part noticed things others had stopped seeing. Saw how one worker would whisper a joke when no Zarkin was near. He saw how another man shaped small figures from broken rock during break time and hid them under the ground. He saw quiet hand signs between friends who had no voice left for speaking. Ravi understood something. The chains were not just on their hands and feet. The chains were in their minds. The Zarkin did not hit them. They did not scream. They controlled through silence and order. They broke spirit, not just a decent evening after work. Ravi sat alone near a storage bin. He closed his eyes and tried to remember a song his mother used to sing it when he was young. The words were gone now, but the tune stayed in his mind like a soft breeze. Hummed it under his breath. The sound was small and shaky, but it felt real. He opened his eyes and looked around. No one had noticed, so he kept humming. The next morning at the food zone, Mina stood in line with a tray. Her back hurt from long hours of chopping and cleaning. The air in the kitchen was full of heat. She moved slowly toward the food counter. A worker in front of her dropped his tray. The sound made everyone look up. The Zarkin guard turned his head, but said nothing. The worker picked up the tray and walked on. Mina noticed something strange. The guard had paused for just 1 second, not in anger, in confusion, as if he had not expected a mistake to happen. That moment stayed in her mind. She thought maybe the Zarkin were not used to human flaws. Maybe they feared what they could not control. That night she spoke to Ravi during the short rest time. They sat on opposite sides of the same wall near the worker quarters. They could not see each other, but they spoke in low voices. Mina said she had noticed how the Zarkin reacted to small things. Ravi told her about the joke he heard. He told her about the small figures in the dust. They both understood something important. The Zarkin controlled order, but not emotion. They did not feel what humans felt. They did not know how to deal with laughter or kindness or dreams. Mina asked what they could do with this knowledge. Ravi said maybe they could start by doing small things that made them feel human again. Not big acts, just small signs of life. Next day, Ravi helped a worker who had fallen in the mine. The man was tired and could not lift his load. Ravi picked it up for him. A guard watched but said nothing. Maybe he did not know what to do when someone helped without being told. Mina passed a note under a tray. It had one line written with vegetable juice on old cloth. The line said, "You are not alone." She gave it to a young girl who often cried at night. The girl looked at the note and smiled. It was her first smile in many days. That night, Ravi told a quiet joke to a small group during break time. It was simple but funny. The group laughed softly. A drone flew by and stopped. Then it flew away. It had no reaction to laughter. It could not understand it. Slowly the small acts grew. One worker shared a memory from Earth. Another made a necklace from wire pieces. A cook arranged food in shapes that looked like trees and birds. None of it was loud or open, but it spread like wind through dry leaves. Zarkin still gave orders. They still watched from towers and drones. But they did not see the change happening in hearts. They did not hear the silent songs. They did not feel the growing strength inside weak bodies. Mina began calling it the echo. It was like a sound that bounced inside the human soul, a feeling that reminded them of who they were. Not tools, not numbers, people with thoughts, stories, and dreams. An evening during a dust storm, the lights went out for a few minutes. The machine stopped, the drones paused. The whole mining area went silent. In that silence, someone began to hum a song. Then another joined, and then another tune spread across the camp. It was not loud, it was not fast, but it was full of feeling. When the lights came back, the song stopped. But something had changed again. Zarkin sent more drones the next day. They added more guards. But they still did not understand what they were fighting against. They had taken Earth with their ships and tools. They had taken cities with power. But now they were facing something they could not scan or measure. They were facing the human heart. The chains they had built were beginning to shake. The sky above Arcanus never changed. It was always dark orange with no clouds. The air felt dry and heavy. But something inside the human camp was changing slowly. Mina stood in the kitchen area, wiping the same metal table again and again. Her hands moved, but her mind was somewhere else. She was thinking about her grandmother. She used to sing a song while cooking, a soft song about rivers, stars, and hope. The words were not in her mind clearly, but the tune stayed without planning. Mina began to hum. The sound was low, almost like a whisper. It rose and fell like waves. The workers around her paused. One woman looked at Mina with tired eyes. Then she smiled just a little. That smile gave Mina courage. She kept humming. As she worketh at night, she told Ravi about it. He listened carefully as they sat behind the supply building during rest time. Ravi's face showed no big reaction, but his eyes were brighter. He said maybe the song could do something. Maybe it could move people more than words. Next day, Mina hummed again while cutting vegetables. She was careful. She kept it soft. But the same woman from yesterday joined her. Her voice was also low. Two voices now moved through the hot air of the kitchen. A guard passed by. He glanced once but did not stop. Maybe to him it was just noise. Later that evening, Ravi heard the same tune inside the mine. Someone was humming it near the loading area. It was quiet and broken, but it was there. The sound was moving across the camp like a breeze under the door. By the end of the week, many workers in different areas had heard it. Some hummed. Some tapped the rhythm on buckets and trays. Some just listened. But something was being shared. Without speaking. It was not a plan. It was not a rule. It was only a song. In the dust, Zarkin began to notice strange activity. One guard asked a worker to explain the noise. The worker said it was nothing. Just old habits. The Zarkin said nothing more. Their scanners found no weapons, no tools, no messages. They did not understand the idea of a song carrying strength. Ravi started something new. During rest time, he scratched simple shapes into the dust with a small stone. A house, a tree, a mountain. Another worker added a sun. A child drew a bird. Each day the drawings changed. Some were wiped away by guards. Others were hidden behind crates and bins. These were not just drawings. They were memories. They were dreams. Even if the Zarkin erased them, more would appear the next day. It became a way to say we are still here. In day, a worker who used to be a teacher started writing short lines in the dust. Simple phrases like remember the sky or keep walking or rivers never stop. Ravi read them silently and smiled. Mina saw them too. She showed a young girl how to make small symbols. Using pieces of old cloth, they tied them near the sleeping wreath. Camp was still full of hard work and silence. But under that silence, something else was growing. The echo was spreading in new forms, songs, drawings, shapes, and signs. Things that had no sound but still spoke clear lies. Zarkin responded by installing more watchers. These were small floating drones that recorded everything. They flew quietly above the workers. But even the watchers could not record feelings. They saw movements. Not meaning gone night, a storm came across Arcanus. The wind was strong, scent-filled. The lights in the camp flickered. The machines paused for 1 hour. During that time, something beautiful happened. Workers gathered near the central path. No guard gave orders. No one told them to stop. In the middle of the camp, someone began to hum the song. Then another joined. Then more. Right was not loud. It was not perfect, but it was full of life. Their voices rose through the dusty air. Even the children hummed. They closed their eyes and swayed gently. For a moment, the camp did not feel like a prison. It felt like a village. A guard came forward, but did not speak. He stood and listened. Maybe he was trying to understand. Maybe he felt something too. When the lights returned, the people went back to their work. But the sound stayed. It echoed in their steps, in their hands, in their eyes. The song was now a part of the camp. Ravi and Mina met again that night. They did not need many words. They both felt it. The song had become more than sound. It had become a message. A quiet message that said we are still human. We still remember who we are. Next day, Mina wrote the word home on the side of a water barrel using fruit juice. She cleaned it after a few minutes, but 3 people had already seen it. One man said he dreamed of home that night. He had not dreamed in weeks. Ravi saw a boy draw a smiling face. In the corner of the mine, the boy looked up and said it was his sister. She was on Earth. He hoped she was Scifi. Zarkin still gave orders. They still watched from towers, but now they walked slower. They spoke less. One even paused to look at a drawing before removing it. Mina whispered to Ravi that maybe the Zarkin were not as strong as they looked. Ravi said maybe they had power, but not understanding. They could move ships and tools, but not hearts' chains. Round the workers' bodies were still there, but inside the chains something warm was growing. It was not a fire. It was more like a light. A soft light that refused to die. The song in the dust was more than a tune. It was a memory, a dream, a promising promises like that never fade. The sky above Arcanus remained the same. There were no stars at night, no clouds by day, only a dull orange color that never changed. But deep inside the human colony, a change was taking place. It was quiet, it was slow, but it was real. Zarkin guards continued to give orders. Their machines still watched every move. But they had not noticed the new light growing among the humans. It was not fire. It was not electricity. It was something inside the people. It was something the Zarkin could not see or measure. Ravi felt it first when he helped a worker carry a broken wheel. The wheel was heavy and sharp. He could have walked away, but something inside him said no. The other worker looked surprised. He said nothing but gave Ravi a thankful look. That look was enough. It made the pain in Ravi's back feel smaller. Mina felt it when a child spilled water in the food area. The child looked scared. The guards did not like mistakes. But Mina smiled and helped clean up before anyone saw. She told the child to be careful next time. The child smiled and nodded. That smile stayed in Mina's heart all day. Humans had no weapons. They had no plans for escape. But they had something else. They had care. They had memory. They had heart. These small acts became their strength. Not all at once, but slowly, like light rising at dawn. Each person began to do one small kind act every day. Someone would save a little food for a weak worker. Another would give their water to someone who was sick. A man in the machine zone made a small flute out of pipe and played soft tunes at night. These were not loud things, but they were powerful. They reminded the people that they were not just workers. They were still human. They could still choose kindness even when the world around them had none. In evening, a Zarkin guard slipped. While stepping down a metal ramp, he dropped his device and fell to the ground. Most humans froze. No one moved. Helping a guard could bring punishment or worse. But Ravi stepped forward. He lifted the device and gave it back. The guard stood up slowly. His glowing eyes looked at Ravi for a long moment. Then he turned and walked away without saying a word. Next morning, something strange happened. Ravi found a fresh fruit near his sleeping place. It was not part of the usual food. He looked around, but no one said anything. Maybe it was a mistake, or maybe the guard had left it. He never knew. Mina heard the story and whispered something important. She said maybe even the Zarkin had small sparks inside them. Maybe they had forgotten them. Maybe they had buried them. But maybe those sparks were still there. People began to speak quietly about this idea. If one small act of help could shake a guard, what could happen if more sparks were lit? What if their kindness was not just for humans, but for all hearts? Even the cold ones. They called this idea the spark inside. It was not a plan. It was a feeling. It was a hope that something soft could break something hard. Drawings in the dust grew more detailed. Now people drew pictures of hands holding each other. Some drew circles with stars above. One child drew a giant heart with small people inside it. A worker carved the word believe on a rock and placed it near the food. Lineth song Mina had hummed was now known by most workers. It was not sung loudly, but it moved through every corner. It became a rhythm in their steps, a tune in their breath. It was not a song anymore. It was a shared memory. One day, a worker named Leon found an old control panel behind the kitchen. It was broken but had some working wires. Leon used to fix radios on Earth. Now he used that skill to build a small light. It was tiny and weak, but when he turned it on, it glowed blue like a star. At night, Leon placed the light in the center of the sleeping area. People gathered around it. No one said anything. They just watched it shine. For a moment they felt they were back on Earth, sitting under the sky. Zarkin did not notice the light. It was small and hidden, but it became a sign. Every night more people sat near it. Some shared old stories. Others closed their eyes and rested without fear. Even silence felt warm near that light. Ravi looked at the people one night and said something simple. He said the Zarkin had machines, but we have hearts. Mina added that hearts are not easy to break. They may bend, but they rise again. These words were shared in whispers. They passed from person to person. People began to speak with hope. The work was still hard. The air was still dry. But now there was something stronger than the pain. Spark inside had grown into a flame. One day, the workers were told a new ship was coming from the Zarkin main base. The guards became more alert. New machines were added around the camp. The mood became tense. The workers were told to stay silent and follow new rules, but the people were not afraid. Not in the same way as before. They had found something stronger than fear. They had each other. They had stories, songs, dreams, and light. Even if new chains came, they knew something important now. The Zarkin could take their tools, their time, their freedom, but they could not take the spark inside. If that spark had become a fire, and that fire would keep burning. The days on Arcanus were still hard and long. The air was dry and the sky never changed. But inside the human camp, something quiet and strong was growing. It was a secret that gave hope to many. A secret that the Zarkin did not know. Mina had found out something new. While cleaning near the Zarkin control room, she heard guards talking. Softly, they spoke about how humans were strange and difficult to control. They said humans could imagine things that were not real yet. That made them dangerous. Mina listened carefully. She remembered the songs, the drawings, the small lights, and the kindness growing inside the camp. She understood that the Zarkin feared something more than weapons or plans. They feared human dreams. She told Ravi about what she had heard. Ravi nodded. He said that dreams were like seeds. Seeds could grow into strong trees even in dry soil. If the Zarkin were afraid of dreams, then they were afraid of a future humans could create together. Mina and Ravi began to encourage the people to dream, not loudly or openly, but quietly and safely. They told small stories of homes, of rivers, of stars. They shared memories of Earth and its beauty. They reminded people of the world before the Zarkin came. Each night, when the guards were asleep or busy, workers drew pictures on the walls and floors. They made small symbols with ashes and dust. They wrote words of hope using vegetable juice. These secret messages spread from one corner of the camp to another. Children joined too. They drew animals and plants from Earth. They told stories of the sun and rain. Their innocent voices filled the quiet air. The adults smiled and listened. These simple acts became a way to fight without weapons. And day, Ravi noticed something different. A Zarkin guard, who usually watched without emotion, started leaving extra food near the children's sleeping area. The guard never spoke or smiled, but the small act of kindness was clear. It was a sign that maybe the guard was changing inside. Tamina thought deeply about this. She believed that kindness could cross any border, even the border between different worlds. She said that dreams were not just for humans but for all beings. Even the coldest hearts could be warmed by hope. Drawings and signs became more detailed. One worker carved a tree with strong roots and wide branches on a metal wall. Another painted stars shining above a peaceful home. A child drew a big heart with many small people holding hands. Inside it, these images reminded everyone of connection. And strength song that Mina had hummed weeks ago was now sung quietly by many. It was not loud or perfect, but it was full of feeling. It moved through the camp like a soft wind. Sometimes the workers sang it while working. Sometimes they sang it before sleep. The song became their secret language. Zarkin tried to stop these acts. They removed some drawings and erased some words. They sent more drones and guards to watch the camp, but they could not stop the dreams. The dreams were inside the people's hearts. They could not be erased by machines or Forcione evening, when a strong dust storm covered the sky. The lights in the camp flickered and went out for a moment. In the dark, the workers gathered silently near the center of the camp. No one spoke. No one moved quickly. They stood together, holding hands and sharing warmth in that dark silence. Mina began to hum the song. Others joined softly. Their voices rose slowly like the morning sun. The song was not just music. It was a promise that they would never forget who they were. A promise that hope was stronger than Firth. Zarkin guards came quickly. When the lights returned, they looked angry but said nothing. They could not understand what had happened in that short time. They could not stop the quiet strength growing in the human hearts. Ravi and Mina watched the people with quiet pride. They knew that the secret was growing. It was a seed that would become a tree. It was a light that would not go out all night. A young worker gave Ravi a small cloth bag. Inside was a tiny drawing of a tree with stars above it. The worker smiled and said, "This is for you, so you remember there is life even in darkness." Ravi held the drawing close. He knew the secret was more powerful than any chain. It was the secret of dreams, kindness, and hope. It was the secret that would one day change everything. The colony on Arcanus had changed. The silence was no longer empty. It was filled with songs, drawings, and small acts of kindness. The Zarkans still ruled with their ships and machines, but they had not stopped the secret inside the humans in mourning. A large ship came from the Zarkan High Command. It was bigger than the others and moved faster. The guards spoke in low voices. They said humans were showing signs of rebellion. They said the human spirit was growing and needed to be controlled. The Zarkan leaders gave new orders. They demanded silence in the camps, no singing, no drawings, no gatherings. They sent new machines to scan for any signs of plans or secret messages. The workers were warned that punishment would come for disobedience. Simeon and Ravi knew this. Day would come. They had prepared the people for it, but the fear was still there, not because of the punishments, but because silence could break the small light growing in their hearts. One evening, when the sun did not shine and the sky was dark orange, Mina was taken from her sleeping place. Guards led her away to the control center. Ravi wanted to follow, but the guards stopped him. They said she was needed for questioning. People in the camp waited. They did not speak. They did not move. They did not work. They just stood still. It was their only way to say no without words. It was their silent protest. The next day, the Zarkan arrived to find the entire camp silent. No machines were running. No voices were heard. The guards tried to shout orders, but no one listened. They tried to move workers, but they stood like statuesque. Zarkan were confused. They had never seen this kind of resistance. They could not scan it or control it. The silence was loud. It was a voice without sound. Ravi stood in the center of the camp and spoke quietly to the people. He said this silence was a way to show that humans are not machines, that humans have hearts and minds, that they can choose to resist even without weapons. Days passed with no work. The Zarkan were frustrated. They sent more guards and machines, but they could not break the silence. The humans only spoke in their eyes and in their quiet presence. Then one morning Mina returned. She was not harmed. She looked tired but calm. She told the people that the Zarkan leaders were afraid. They said humans were unstable. They said they could not control a spirit that did not obey Machinist. Zarkan left the camp and locked the doors from outside. They said humans could keep their small light, but they would not let it grow. They said they would watch from far away, and Waitravi and Mina stood before the people and smiled. They had not fought with weapons. They had not shouted or run. They had used something stronger. They had used the human heart. The people cheered quietly. They knew their fight was not over, but they had won something important. They had shown that even in chains, humans could be freed. Stars above Arcanus looked brighter that night. The song returned softly in the camp. The drawings and signs stayed on the walls. The light inside the people burned stronger than ever. The Zarkan had made a mistake. They had forgotten that the most powerful force in the universe was not ships or weapons. It was hope. It was kindness. It was love. Humans had resisted in the most human way. And that was enough. The locked doors of the colony on Arcanus made a quiet sound as the Zarkan left. The humans inside stood together, their hearts full of hope and their minds filled with dreams. They knew the Zarkan had tried to break them, but the truth was clear now. They could not break what made them human. Ravi and Mina stood before the group. Their faces showed strength and calm. They spoke softly, but their words reached every ear. Ravi said, "We have no weapons. We have no ships, but we have something stronger. Hope. We have kindness and love. These are the true powers." Mina smiled and added, "The Zarkan feared our hearts. They feared our dreams. They thought they could take everything. But they forgot the most important thing. The spirit inside us is free. It cannot be locked or chained." The people nodded. They felt a new energy inside. The children laughed softly. The workers shared quiet stories. The drawings on the walls shone like stars in the soft light. The song hummed in the air like a gentle wind. Life on Arcanus was still hard. The sky was still orange and dry. But now every step was a step of freedom. Every smile was a small victory. Every song was a message to the universe. Humans would never stop dreaming. In day, Ravi found the small light made by Leon. It was still glowing softly in the center of the sleeping area. Ravi touched it gently and said, "This light is us. It is small, but it never goes out." Mina agreed. She said, "No matter where we are, the light inside will guide us. It is the light of kindness, courage, and hope." The Zarkan watched from a distance. They saw that humans had changed. They could not control the human heart. They had to leave, for now. But they knew one day they might return. Humans on Arcanus made a promise to each other. They promised to keep the light alive. They promised to help each other and never forget their stories. They promised to be human in every way. Ravi and Mina looked at the stars above. They dreamed of Earth and the day they would return. But for now, they knew their fight was not with weapons, but with the most human power. Opethhi Colony was no longer a prison. It was a home built with kindness, dreams, and strength. Zarkan had taken much, but they had not taken everything. They had not taken the human spirit, and that was enough to win.